Bonjour tout le monde, c'est moi Charlotte et aujourd'hui nous allons parler un peu de la peur. La peur. Fear. Hi everyone, today in our French club video we're going to talk about fear, things that make us scared, things that scare us. So the reason I've chosen this, as you might have guessed, is because it's the end of October, and at the end of October we, or lots of people around the world, especially in the Western world, might choose to celebrate Halloween or le Toussaint, so All Saints. So I guess these days it's for a lot of people it's just a bit of fun to dress up in des déguisements, disguises, or fancy dress. To have a bit of a laugh, but we're not going to go into the background of that recent tradition. What we're going to do instead is concentrate on some of the ways that you can talk about being scared or having fear of something, if you like. The reason I say to have fear is because there is a main verb phrase that we're going to look at. You can probably see a bit of it over here. Avoir peur. Peur. So to be afraid or to be scared, to be frightened, afraid, frightened, scared. We've got those three adjectives that we can use in English. There's a couple of different verbs you can use. There are some adjectives as well which kind of correspond with afraid or frightened. But we're going to look at this one in particular, this verb phrase, avoir. Peur. So when we in English would say I am frightened, I am scared, I'm afraid, I am using the verb to be, you might think, oh, you use être. Je suis effrayé, peut-être. Ça a du sens, ça. So if you were to say I am scared using the adjective effrayé, which you'll see if you've got my hand out, club members will receive this later. That one looks like this. Voilà, la peur. Then you can use je suis, but what is very common and colloquial is instead to say j'ai peur. Oh, j'ai peur. Oh, j'ai peur. Or if you're not scared, you might say je n'ai pas peur. Je n'ai pas peur. So we'll bring that down a little bit, and I'll you can zoom in, is there space to zoom in a little bit? Un peu. Un peu. So you could also say, if you're a little bit scared of something, not very, just a bit, you could say j'ai, I have, un peu, a little bit, a little, peur. So the reason I've put peu and peur together is because the word for fear, la peur, has an R at the end. So when you're using this very common construction, which I would advise you to use or look out for, listen out for, you will have this R sound. So you don't say j'ai peur, non. J'ai peur, j'ai peur. A little bit like the word in English to purr. Okay, so the E, sound, and the U becomes peur, 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 with an R at the end. J'ai peur. Okay, so this uses the verb avoir, avoir. So j'ai peur, tu as peur. Okay, so that's the tu as, you singular, informal form of saying you. Il a peur, il a peur. So what you do basically, you keep peur, you use the subject pronoun, and then you conjugate the verb avoir. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So avoir is to have, or got if you like. J'ai, that's avoir. Tu as peur, you have fear, you're scared. Il or elle, so we need avoir in the third person singular. He, she, has. Okay, so that sounds the same as this one. Il a peur. Elle a peur. So if you're saying, oh, my daughter's scared, you could say ma fille a peur, because we're talking about her. So you don't have to use il and elle with this avoir peur, of course you can replace the subject pronoun with another, like a name, for example. Marie a peur. Stéphane a peur. Christophe a peur. Or you could use a noun, like a noun phrase like ma fille, ma mère, mon ami a peur des chats. For example, my friend's scared, he or she is scared of cats, has fear of something. We're going to look at the of plus a noun. Fear of snakes, fear of dying, fear of whatever, or fear of death, to be a noun. So, j'ai peur, tu as peur, il ou elle a peur. You can also, I forgot to write it down, you could say on a peur, on a peur. So the on, third person on form, it can be used to mean we, very common in French, or to talk about people in general, you know, like on a peur, en général, on a peur des araignées. That might not be a true thing, but people are often scared of, you could put often in, okay, to make that more correct, I suppose. Souvent, on a peur des araignées. Often, people have or are scared of spiders, okay? So, il a, elle a, on a peur de quelque chose, of something. So, we've looked at the singular ones. Je, tu, il, elle, on, et, a, okay? Now I'm going to go down to, this is the way we're going to do that. Go down to here where we've got the nous, vous, et il, elle. So just to be clear, right, because I've just realised this could lead to confusion. Vous can also be a singular subject pronoun. So I might be talking to like my teacher, and I might be saying, are you scared of anything, sir, or miss, or madam? Vous avez peur de rien, monsieur, madame? So when I'm addressing one person in the formal way, then vous is a singular form of address, as is tu. But tu you would use just for someone you know, or maybe children, or your family, or a mate, or something, a colleague maybe. But vous can also address you, plural, like you guys, all of you, you lot. So vous can be both singular, formal. Here I am. It can be plural for everyone. It could be plural informal or plural formal, okay? So that's why vous is down here in the little plural section, even though it can be used singularly if you're using it to address someone, an individual with respect, formally, okay? So, here I've got a one missing verb actually, so this is the verb avoir. We have fear, okay? So this will be avons. Nous avons peur. You might hear the S there, a little liaison between the S and the A. Nous avons. It makes a Z sound. So instead of nous avons peur, nous avons peur. Vous avez, la liaison there, vous avez peur? Vous avez peur des araignées, vous? Are you guys scared of spiders? Non? D'accord. Ils and elles ont. Okay, so there's that Z sound again. You get it? You get the liaison where, let's zoom in a little bit, you get that liaison, for example, at the end of the subject pronouns, nous, vous, ils, elles, you don't pronounce the S normally, it's just to show you it's not the singular he or she. When it's followed by a verb conjugation, like avant, avez, or on, here, which starts with a vowel, okay? So, nous avons peur. Oh, nous avons peur. Vous avez peur? Ils ont peur. Ou les garçons, ils ont peur. Les filles, elles n'ont pas peur. Okay, so you can put it in the negative. If you put it in the negative, then you need to remember that here just before and here just after or here just before, here just after, here just before, here just after the verb, you're going to have a ne and a pas. Now when you have verb conjugations like avant, avait and en, they all have a noun, not a noun, they all have a noun, they all have a vowel at the beginning, so the ne will become an apostrophe. Nous n'avons pas, let's put a little part in there, vous n'avez pas, elles n'ont pas, ils n'ont pas peur. Okay? So, avoir peur. Oh, j'ai peur. J'ai peur. As-tu peur? T'as pas peur? Tu n'as pas peur? Est-ce que tu as peur? Est-ce que tu n'as pas peur? There's loads of ways of using questions in general, but with this kind of avoir peur structure to ask, are you scared? Aren't you scared? I was just listening actually to a TED talk. I could probably find up my phone and tell you the name, maybe link it into the video description. So when I was getting ready for the video, I was listening to a TED talk. So let's see, comment elle s'appelle elle? Margot Aman. Okay, so this lady here. Voila, can you see that? Let's just try and focus it here. Voila. So there's a lovely TED talk. Et si on arrêtait d'avoir peur? So, and what if we stopped being scared? Great talk actually, so I'll try and link it down. I think that will work. This is for advanced learners. There's probably subtitles there where you can watch what she's, or read what she's saying at the same time. But she talks about a point in her life where she just decided, I'm not going to be scared anymore, and basically embraced love, okay, as opposed to fear. L'amour au lieu de la peur. So I would advise, if you're advanced, if you're interested, if you just want to hear some French, you know, an interesting TED talk en français, check that out. So, avoir peur is to be scared. There's some other ones that I'm not going to mention too much, or in too much detail, but you might come across faire peur à quelqu'un. So, faire plus peur is to make someone scared, or to be scary, basically. So here's some examples. So with faire plus peur, you'd have something like oh, j'ai vraiment peur du noir. Really scared of the dark. Ça me fait peur. It scares me. It me makes fear. Ça me fait peur. So let me see if I can write that down somewhere for you to have a little look. I'll bring this up a bit. Sorry about all the noises. So let's see, ça me fait peur, me fait peur, me fait peur. Let's put it over here. Ça me fait peur. Ça me fait peur. So that's a way of saying, oh, it scares me, or it frightens me, or it's scary. So, bye-bye piece of paper. Ça means it or that, whatever's been mentioned. It might be la nuit, nighttime. It could be la mort, okay, death. Les serpents. If it was les serpents, technically it would be this. Let's do ils me font peur. We've still got the verb faire, and I've changed ça to il, just for the sake of ease. So il could be les serpents. It could be les chiens. Okay, lots of people are scared of dogs. So you could say j'ai peur des chiens. Yeah, I'm scared of dogs. We'll come to the how you use de plus a noun in a minute. But here I'm using a slightly different verb phrase and structure to say the same thing. Les chiens me font peur. They make me fearful, if you like. It's not really how it translates, but they refers to the thing that scares you. Me is an indirect object pronoun, which means à moi, to me. Faire peur is like a verb phrase. You often get faire with Like, actually it's followed, sometimes it can be followed by a verb. It's a common structure to make something happen or to make you feel a certain way. Ça me fait peur. La situation Covid, ça me fait peur. Okay, COVID situation. What's going on in the world? C'est ça qui me fait peur. That's what makes me scared, for example. That's what scares me. So you might see the verb, or hear the verb faire followed by peur. If you're talking about a singular thing that scares you, like la situation Covid, like the global pandemic situation, you're talking about a singular thing, the situation, COVID, the pollution, whatever, the environmental crisis. Any of those things, you're talking about them, they may be theoretical rather than physical things, but they're singular. La situation, le Covid, par exemple. Here we're talking about something plural, so the verb faire will be conjugated depending on whatever the subject is, the thing that's doing the action, striking fear into your heart. So let's see, it could be les rats me font peur. Rats scare me. I could ask you the question using this structure, what scares you? So if I wanted to ask you what scares you, you might have this question. Qu'est-ce qui, so that's the what is it which, qu'est-ce qui vous fait peur? What is it that scares you? Okay, but what if you want to ask what are you scared of? What scares you, using the avoir peur instead of faire peur? So somewhere I think I've written that down. Here's one way. De quoi vous avez peur? De quoi vous avez peur? Of what, or about what, do you have fear? So here we've got de quoi, about what, or what about, or what, if you like. We've got the subject pronoun, then we've got the verb avoir, and then we've got peur. So if I were asking you what scares you using this avoir peur, but I wanted to ask in the tu form, what would change? Two things would change. De quoi vous would become tu, and then avez would be conjugated in the tu form. So de quoi tu as peur. There's other ways of asking the same thing. De quoi tu as peur. One thing that was mentioned in here, which seems like quite natural to me, if you're asking someone like, aren't you scared? Like, doesn't that scare you? This young lady, Margot Amman, excuse me, gives some examples of like when she decided to go travelling, to just leave her life and go travelling and follow her dream. And she was imitating her friends. Tu n'as pas peur? Tu n'as, or even shorter, even more colloquial and amongst friends, t'as pas peur? T'as pas peur? Now, to a non-native, you might think, what are they babbling on about? But t'as pas peur, I'll show you what that means. So let's have a look. Where can I find a piece of paper? So I was going to conjugate the verb craindre, which also means to be fearful or to be afraid, but I don't think I'm going to have time. But here is another one that you can look up. Craindre, to be afraid. You might use that if you're saying, oh, I'm afraid I'm not available at the moment, for example. Or to be scared, if you like. But the example I wanted to show you just then was avoir peur again. So, tu n'as pas peur. So this is using the negative ne and pas. Ne becomes an apostrophe in front of auxiliary verbs that have avoir, or just any conjugated verb that follows the subject pronoun in the negative. Tu n'as pas peur? Aren't you scared? That can be shortened even further. T'as pas peur? T'as pas peur? That kind of translates as, aren't you scared? Aren't you frightened? So what's happened here is we've taken out the ne in the negative. Tu n'as pas peur. Tu n'as pas peur becomes tu as pas peur, and then tu shortens down, it gets contracted down again, you get rid of the u, and it becomes the very colloquial t'as pas peur. You'll see that ta you'll hear that ta in questions like this. T'as vu? Ah, t'as vu Sophie? Did you see? Have you seen? So instead of tu as vu, or as-tu vu? As-tu vu? So that version there has the verb avoir in the tu form, then it has the subject pronoun tu, then it has the past participle. So if you were saying you have seen, making a statement, you would say tu as vu Sophie. But here we've got the subject verb inversion. So you invert the subject, the auxiliary with the subject, and that's suddenly a question. That sounds like a question in French when you invert the verb, like voulez-vous du café? Savez-vous? Parlez-vous anglais, par exemple? So when you invert the verb and the subject, the conjugated verb and the subject, when you turn them around and put a hyphen between them in the written form, it's a question. So as-tu vu becomes tu as vu, and that shortens down to t'as vu, t'as vu. So if you hear t'as pas peur, or simply t'as peur, aren't you scared, are you scared, in the short colloquial form, might sound something like that. This area, like, you could spend a long time talking about just just one verb phrase, but I'd like to focus now on just a separate part of this avoir peur de quelque chose thing. So I think it's here. Oui. D'accord. Ce que j'ai fait, j'ai écrit quelques mots ici dont on a souvent peur. So here I've written some words, all nouns as it happens, things that we might be scared of, quite commonly scared of, and some which I've just kind of been silly and put something in there to make a point, or to use a different combined article or combined preposition. So if you're scared of something, in English you say I'm scared of spiders, I'm scared of the dark, I'm scared of the mouse that lives in that hole, whatever it is. In French you need to pay attention to the gender and the number of the noun that follows your, whatever you are fearful of. So let's think, what pen should I use? I'll just use a black pen. So I've put j'ai, tu, il, elle, nous, vous, il, elle. I actually missed the on out, but I think I've gone into that at the beginning of the video. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change, potentially, the preposition de, which normally means of. Sometimes it means about, okay? It's not always that simple. So, j'ai peur de, now, I'm scared of death. So you need to know what gender that word death is. It's a feminine noun, so it's la mort, la mort. So it's not l'amour, which would be love, it's la mort, or, not our, or. So, j'ai peur de la mort. When you have de plus a feminine noun, you just keep de and la. They don't combine to make something slightly different. They just follow each other with a space. That's probably the easiest one. Peur de la famille, peur de la voiture, but anything feminine. Tu as peur. Now we've got noir. So that is a colour, it means black, but it can also mean darkness. Okay, so you need to know what is the gender of the word noir when you're talking about darkness. So it's le noir. Le noir. When de, the preposition de, is followed by the article le, it becomes a different word. It becomes, what does it become? Du. Okay, so de plus le equals du. Okay, get rid of those so you can see the correct answer. J'ai peur du noir. Mais j'ai aussi peur de la mort. Okay, these aren't my fears, these are just general fears, words that you might know, words that you might find useful in the context of, you know, fear or nighttime, etc. He has, or he is scared of, right? So here we have cats. Chat has an S at the end, so that tells you that chat is cats rather than of the cat over in the corner, for example. So here we have the preposition de, which means of, which combines, mingles with the article les, because it's les chats. Okay, you always need the article generally in French when you're talking about things or a thing. La peur, for example, fear. In English we just say fear, in French you kind of say the fear, right? But it sounds like you're just saying fear. So, les, c'est les chats. Donc, de plus les, ça fait, de plus les, ça fait des. There's a little song there. So, de plus les equals des. So you're going to use, that's a useful one if you're talking about, oh, I'm scared of bats, dogs, women, men, kids, loud noises. Anything that's plural, you can just use des, okay? So, il a peur des chats. Il a peur des chats. So what do we have here? A slightly different one. This is worth remembering anyway, this one. So we've got the word, well, we've got the letters E, A, U. E, A, U. All together they make a completely different sound. See? O. O. Now what is that word? What's it mean? It means water. Don't think I have any water here at the moment to demonstrate, but that's pronounced O, like the letter O in French. So you need to know how to pronounce that because it could save your life. You're probably going to ask for it. So it's l'eau. Water, when you're talking about water in general, it's L''O. Okay, it's a feminine noun as it happens, but you can't tell looking at it. It's a noun that starts with a vowel. You kind of have to just find out or know or practice, learn whether it's masculine or feminine, okay? Here it doesn't matter too much. You just want to say she is scared of. So when de, to be scared of something, is followed by a noun that starts with a vowel and an L' is placed in front of the vowel, the noun, it stays like this. De l'eau. So on my handout, what I've done is I've taken a couple of snips. I've just gone on to google.fr, so google.france. Where is it? Let me see. C'est par terre, it's on the floor, excuse-moi. J'arrive. Voilà, ça y est. Voilà. So I've taken just a couple of little snipped images of searches that I did. Let's see, you could do this yourself. Just go on to like, ici, focus please. Voilà. And ici. Just to show you some of the common searches that people do in French. Avoir peur des maladies. Avoir peur des araignées. Avoir peur du noir. Scared of the dark. But here was another one, for example, that came up when you look for that search. A word that has a vowel at the beginning, a noun that has a vowel. So, avoir peur de l'amour. Scared of love. Worried about love, scared about love. Avoir peur de l'abandon. Fear of abandonment, you know. What other ones start with a vowel? I can't think of any others. But the same thing happens when the noun starts with a vowel. It's just the preposition de, then a space, then the L'. Similar to de la mort. It just sort of stays as is. But when it's le in front of a noun, de plus le equals du, so that changes. And when it's de plus les, it changes to des, which you can see looks a bit more, similar. So what's the next one? Okay, the next one is avoir peur, chien. Okay, so I mentioned this one earlier. And it's in the new form, just so that you can see again the conjugation of avoir. Nous avons peur, chien. My tummy's making some noises, sorry about that. Nous avons peur, chien. So chien, dogs, is in the plural. It's got an S at the end, like chat. So it would be nous avons peur des chiens. Let's go down a little bit to the vous form. What have we got here? Instead of a noun like an object, we've got someone's name. Pierre, okay? So if you guys, or you singular formal, are scared of Pierre, maybe he's really scary, peut-être il fait peur, maybe he's a scary guy. Then you just need to keep the preposition de. Okay, like in English, scared of Michael, scared of Sophie, scared of whoever. Now let's move on to the ils ont peur. What's the next one? Let's see if I can just put that down a little bit. Oh, c'est des araignées. Oh, I'll give him the answer. Les araignées would be spiders. But here, because it's plural, it's the preposition de plus les, which becomes des. Okay, and then the last one, I was struggling to think of something that was feminine here. The last one is la pluie. C'est quoi la pluie? La pluie. That's the noun, which means rain. Okay, the verb is pleuvoir. So when you say il pleut, you're saying it is raining. It's raining. That's the verb to rain. But the noun, like dancing in or singing in the rain, is la pluie. So it's la. Elles ont peur de la pluie. They are scared of the rain. I mean, who could be scared of the rain? Surely someone is. Okay, so what we've done is we've looked at the verb phrase, avoir peur, to be scared, which is very common, colloquial also way of saying to be afraid, to be frightened, scared, okay? There are others. There's craindre, which I'm not going to go into, although I would say if you're intermediate or advanced, go and have a look at it. I was going to conjugate it here, but I'm not going to do that now because I've already used the page. And then we looked at how you follow avoir peur de quelque chose with the preposition de, and how that preposition changes as per this page, I think. Du, de la, de elle est peur, apostrophe, and then des, and it just stays de in front of someone's name. But there was also something else I want to mention. So you could have, or you could be scared of doing something. So if you're scared of doing something, like losing a job is an example here, you would, instead of changing the preposition de, following it with a noun, you'd say, for example, voilà. You would use the infinitive verb, okay? So, par exemple, j'ai peur de perdre mon travail. Quite pertinent for people at the moment. J'ai peur de perdre mon travail. Here's one in the negative. So, scared of losing my job. In English we'd say losing, or scared that I will. Slightly different structure in French. But j'ai peur de perdre, scared of losing. So just use the whole infinitive verb. I'm scared of eating chocolates. J'ai peur de manger trop de chocolat. Too much chocolate. That's a silly one. In the negative, I'm scared of not succeeding, for example. Right? Scared of failure. You could replace it with the noun failure. But what we're going to do is we're going to keep it in the infinitive with a negative in. So this is what happens there. J'ai peur de, I'm scared of not succeeding. So the verb is to succeed, which is réussir, but not, that not bit, you don't just use pas, you use ne and pas. And you don't say j'ai peur de ne réussir pas, No, you put ne and pas together. Have you ever heard that? Ne and pas together in front of an infinitive verb. You'll start hearing that quite a lot with structures that require an infinitive in the negative. So, j'ai peur de ne pas réussir. I think that's true for a lot of people. J'ai peur de ne pas réussir. I'm scared of not succeeding. So, hopefully there's some useful things there. If you're in my club, you'll be receiving this handout via email later, along with some links. There's going to be a few links on here. I haven't quite decided which to give you, but there's a beginner one with a crossword, fear-related words. Then there's an intermediate one, which is like a quiz, a bit of reading first, and then a couple of little questions at the end to test your understanding. And then there's an advanced one, which is a psychological test, asking you what are your fears. That's quite high level. Also, if I remember, which I'll try to do, I'll put the link to that young lady Margot Haman's TED Talk. That definitely is for more advanced learners, but if you want to just go and explore the internet, YouTube, TED Talks en français, you could start there. Why not? Vous n'avez pas peur? No? You're not scared, are you? Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope you have a lovely end of the month, and if you're going to go out and enjoy Halloween, amusez-vous bien. N'ayez pas peur. That's something I didn't tell you. So, n'ayez pas peur. Don't be scared. Don't have fear. So that's a little subjunctive type imperative actually there. N'ayez pas peur. N'ayez pas peur. Maybe we'll look at that in another lesson. Merci beaucoup et à la prochaine fois. Au revoir.